The Chicago White Sox wrapped up their final road series by taking 2 of 3 from the postseason bound San Diego Padres. Solid performances from Davis Martin and Lance Lynn. Elvis Andrus supplied a lot of the offense. And despite the series win, Tony La Russa remains a focus as reports point to his retirement announcement, perhaps on Monday. The White Sox are back home for their final 3 games against the Minnesota Twins.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong diehard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Really appreciate you letting me steal some of your time to talk White Sox. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The White Sox are fighting to finish the season above 500 and in sole possession of second place in the AL Central. The White Sox had another successful West Coast trip, taking 2 of 3 from the Padres, and it looks like the White Sox will be looking for a new manager very soon. State of the White Sox, they are 79 and 80, second place in the AL Central with 3 games left. Sox took 2 of 3 from the San Diego Padres, winning games 1 and 3 of the series. White Sox only scored 7 runs in the series and were 4 for 21 with runners in scoring position, but got some great pitching. Solid outings from Davis Martin and Lance Lynn. Elvis Andrus supplied the power. We'll be talking about the entire series in this episode. The focus, though, is about Tony La Russa and the future of the Chicago White Sox. I am sure you have heard the rumors and the reports already. According to Bob Nightingale, the White Sox whisperer, Tony La Russa is to announce his retirement on Monday. From Nightingale's article in USA Today, he said the White Sox will be looking for their 4th manager in 8 seasons. White Sox general manager Rick Hahn originally wanted A.J. Hinch instead of La Russa, but it would have made no difference. He went on to say they will be soon formulating a list of managerial candidates, including everyone from Bruce Bochy to Mike Shildt to Joe Espada to George Lombard. Bob Nightingale also mentioned Carlos Beltran's name, and then added, the White Sox need to act boldly and quickly if they're going to have any chance of winning any time soon, with the youthful Guardians threatening to dominate the division. Interesting stuff, as always, from Bob Nightingale. Hopefully, there is an actual managerial search. Some of interesting names that Nightingale focused on. Of course, Bruce Bochy, 3-time World Series winner, managed the Padres, had his success with the Giants, last managed in 2019. It was rumored that if Tony La Russa wasn't going to come out of retirement and manage the White Sox, then Bruce Bochy was going to be the choice. Mike Shildt, another name, St. Louis Cardinals manager for 4 seasons. 2021 was his last year. Currently, I believe he is in the San Diego system. You got George Lombard, a name a lot of people might not be familiar with. Los Angeles Dodgers first base coach from 2016 to 2020. currently the Detroit Tigers bench coach. And then Joe Espada, a name a lot of folks are really interested in, was a New York Yankee, a third base coach. And recently, Houston Astros bench coach has been in that position since 2018. Of course, some other names that have been floated for a while now. AJ Pierzynski, who was really interested in the job a couple years ago before it went to La Russa. Willie Harris has come out talking about wanting the gig. Willie Harris, of course, from the 2005 World Series team. He is the third base coach for the Chicago Cubs. I believe Willie Harris actually had an interview before Tony La Russa was hired. One of the few, if any, candidates that actually had an interview before La Russa got the job. Ozzy Gann back in the spotlight. Talked about Ozzy Gann last week right here on Lockdown Sox. I think the Sox need to go in a different direction, need a different voice. I thought maybe his time was after Ricky Renteria. Kind of surprised that they really didn't even give him an interview, even though you know what you're getting with Ozzy Gann. I guess Reinsdorf called him personally and said, you know what, you're not it. It's going to be La Russa. Ozzy Gann really making a plea for playing his case on NBC Sports Chicago in the pregame. If you haven't seen the video, check this out. Ozzy says he's the best man for the job and, quote, "Let me be cocky. Nobody in baseball knows this ball club better than Ozzy Gann," end quote. So making maybe a one last final effort to get his name in there. He wants it. Ozzy Gann wants the job. He wants to manage the White Sox again, despite, the downplay and, being, trying to maybe be humble. If they came to him and said, "We want you," he would take it in a heartbeat. We'll see what happens. This is fascinating. I can't believe the Sox are here once again. Paul Sullivan from the Chicago Tribune, he had an October 2nd article, really an op-ed piece naming a bunch of names that he thought might be, worthy of either an interview or maybe they could be, actually getting the job. Named a lot of the names that Bob Nightingale mentioned, and then threw in, of course, Miguel Cairo. You got to think about him, the current acting manager. Chris Getz, I don't know about that one. Joe Girardi let go from the Phillies earlier this year. AJ Hinch, if you're going to try to actually pry him from Detroit because he was your original choice, doubtful. Ethan Katz, moving from pitching coach to manager, I don't think so. And then White Sox legend Jim Thome, Paul Sullivan mentioning his name, highly unlikely, at least I hope not. But then again, Tony La Russa somehow got the job in 2020, so anything is possible. Tony La Russa stepping down is not a surprise to me, nor is, I think, to a lot of Sox fans. The real surprise would be if Jerry Reinsdorf delivered the message himself, got in front of a microphone, and answered questions with transparency. Reinsdorf owes everyone an explanation. What were you thinking way back when? Instead of letting Bob Nightingale or John Heyman or letting Paul Sullivan do your bidding, Jerry should take questions himself or just have some Sox intern write up an op-ed, sign Jerry's name and push it out there. Give us your version of the situation. Give us something. That, of course, will probably never happen. The Reinsdorf regime is like the Richard Nixon regime, fueled by ego, power, distrust, and fear. I'm sure Jerry has a list of enemies like Nixon did. It bears repeating, how much power will Rick Hahn be given in this next managerial search, if it is an actual search? Is it his call to make this time? After what happened last time, coupled with the type of moves he's made as of late, do we even trust Rick Hahn to make the right decision? Whoever is the next manager, they will have giant expectations placed directly on their shoulders immediately. Lots of blame to go around for how the White Sox played this year, and Yasmani Grandal has thoughts. I'm also going to tell you why the Sox may have to seriously consider bringing Elvis Andrus back next season. More on that in a moment. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor: delicious, indulgent cookie dough. Covered in chocolate. That's right, Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your new favorite cookie dough chunk puffs. Have a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All of the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. Run to built.com to snag a box for you and the family. It will be the perfect treat, or you can find a really good hiding place and just hoard them for yourself. Like all Built bars, the new cookie dough chunk puff is covered in 100% real chocolate. That means they're healthy and tasty. Chocolate covered cookie dough with a light, fluffy texture. What's great about Built is that all their bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. You are going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff wherever you need a snack for your workout, a late night treat, or just need a quick bite. Built is the perfect protein bar, and they taste better than a candy bar. Ditch the calories, fat, and sugar. Grab yourself a Built bar. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKEDON15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKEDON15. Before Friday's game, the series opener in San Diego, Yasmani Grandal had some quotes released about what's been going on with this 2022 season and his thoughts. Grandal said this season was definitely a slap in the face. Quote, coming in, knowing what we had, knowing what we can do, and knowing what we needed to do. And then all of a sudden, everything just going out the window. It's eye-opening. If you don't take this year seriously, it's going to come back to bite us next year again. Hopefully, we get everything straightened out and come back next year and give it a shot. This offseason for me, I know the plan I want to do. I know exactly what it is I'm going to do. Next year, I'm sure, is going to be a way different story, end quote. Yasmani Grandal, of course, one of the big disappointments this season. Interesting stuff from him. Wondering what other quotes we'll get from different players as the offseason rolls on. Other news and notes, White Sox starting pitcher Michael Kopech, who has been shut down. He had right knee surgery on Thursday in Los Angeles to address issue with meniscus. Sox say he'll be ready for spring training without limitations. I'll see that hopefully in February. Around Valentine's Day, pitchers and catchers should report. I'm already looking forward to that. San Diego series, can't help thinking about Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado. Anytime the White Sox play the Padres, Tatis Jr., of course, hasn't really played this year, but Manny Machado, he did some work against the Sox in the series, glove and bat. Again, just I hate talking about it. I hate thinking about it, but that offseason, how they could not figure out the Machado thing or the Bryce Harper thing, it'll haunt the Sox for a while, unfortunately. So anytime it's Padres, White Sox, thinking about those two players and their tie-in with the White Sox. Friday, game one, Sox won 3-1. Davis Martin, how good has he been? Up and down from AAA to the bigs, back and forth. He has played such a critical part in some spot starts. On Friday, he went 5 2/3 of an inning, 6 hits, only 1 earned run. 0 walks, 8 strikeouts. His ERA at 3.65. He threw 103 pitches on Friday. Sox were up against Darvish, and they handled him pretty well. Bullpen in Friday's game, 3 1/3 innings, 1 hit only, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Sox offense doing just enough, 3 runs, 8 hits, 3 doubles, Andrus, Sheets, Moncada, and a home run from Eloy Jimenez, hopefully your 2023 designated hitter. Sox with runners in scoring position, though, 2 for 11 on Friday. Davis Martin, again, he has been exactly what we needed when we needed it. And it's got to be a difficult gig to just not get comfortable, constantly moving back and forth from Charlotte to the White Sox. Could he be replacing Johnny Cueto in the rotation in 2023? I like his stuff. His slider was outstanding on Friday. If you did not catch that outing, go back and watch some replay, some video of Davis Martin's outing. It was wonderful. Davis Martin this season, talking about up and down, 13 games for him, 8 starts, 61 innings, 47 strikeouts in those 61 innings. And again, his ERA 3.65. Saturday was your loss, 2-5. Again, offense not doing much. Unfortunately, it was a Dylan Cease start, his last start of the season. It was a rough one for Dylan Cease. 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, a couple home runs. Cease ends the year with a 2.20 ERA. Here are some numbers for Dylan Cease. Saturday was a rough start, but what a fantastic season for Dylan Cease. 14 wins, 184 innings pitched, 32 starts. Talked about that 2.20 ERA, roughly 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. And I think he's going to fall short of the Cy Young Award, but definitely put himself on the map, national attention, and should be regarded, of course, as the ace of this White Sox staff. And who can forget that one hitter, that Minnesota Twins one hitter went, of course, all the way down to the wire just about. And, I hope it's something that you're only going to see more of from Dylan Cease. He set the bar pretty high here, but I think he's going to only get better next season. Saturday in that loss, Sox offense, not doing much, had only 1 extra base hit. Andrus actually had both RBIs in Saturday's game, and with runners in scoring position, 1 for 4. On Sunday, Sox took the series with a 2-1 victory. Kind of an odd game, as the San Diego Padres, they clinched a playoff berth in the 7th inning. So standing ovation from the San Diego fans. Lance Lynn was on the mound at the time, kind of like, what's going on here? So kind of weird, like San Diego still kind of had something to play for, I guess. Pride, wanted to win the game, but hey, they got into the postseason and they knew it in the 7th. Lance Lynn had a wonderful outing, 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, a walk, 5 strikeouts, and a home run. His ERA, 3.99 to end the season through 93 pitches on Sunday. Lance Lynn left with a 1-run lead, handed it over to Ronaldo Lopez, another major bright spot for this pitching staff. Lopez was in on the 8th inning. He got out of a big jam, turned things over to Liam Hendriks in the 9th, and Hendriks had his 36th save of the season. Sox offense, 2 runs, 5 hits, a couple extra base hits. Again, Elvis Andrus, another home run, and with runners in scoring position, 1 for 6. Elvis Andrus was all over this series offensively, and if he can maintain the offense, which is a tough prediction, it's a tough ask, but and a team lately that has just felt like it has just given up and quit. Elvis Andrus has continued to hit and has continued to be a major bonus in watching these games. Got to think about maybe somehow bringing him back and what that would look like, especially if he's okay with changing a position. One of the many offseason issues that the Sox will have to face. White Sox begin their final series of the season at home against the division rival Minnesota Twins. I'm going to tell you why Johnny Cueto will have a very good outing. More on that in a moment. It's the last series of the season, all at home against the Twins. Cueto on the hill for Southside Monday. Last 7 starts have not been great for Johnny Cueto. 2-5 record, 41 innings, 47 hits in those 41 innings, 9 walks, 27 strikeouts, a 5.01 ERA. His last start was indeed against the Twins on September 28th. That did not go well. 5 2/3 of an inning, 10 hits, 6 earned runs, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. Despite things not going well for Cueto lately, Johnny Cueto obviously wants to finish strong. He needs to make a good impression on ball clubs that are looking to add to their rotation in 2023. I think he wants to give folks a nice lasting impression into the offseason. I don't think he's going to come back with the White Sox, but you never know. I mean, who knows when it comes to health? He definitely is auditioning, and he has put together a really nice tape reel and really nice resume here in 2022. Hopefully he can cap it off with a stellar outing against the Twins. Folks, thanks for making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. We are on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTV. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen. Now make your second listen the Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up on the next episode, I'll recap Johnny Cueto's outing, and we'll be talking a lot of Tony La Russa, depending on, of course, if there is indeed a retirement announcement. Really appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Morawski, and until next time, go Sox.